Hello everyone, and welcome to the 10th and final episode of Talk Therapy Through Gaming. I wanted to kind of wrap up this show because to me I felt like it was coming to an end. And I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like I wasn't 100% happy with the show itself. I'm really glad I did it. I hope that people found some of the things I talked about valuable. I am going to be working on other projects and doing other things. I think the act of making this in itself was challenging enough for me to put myself in front of a camera, but now it's time for me to move on to something that is more interesting to me. I think that some of the messages that I put out and the purpose was kind of confused, and I think part of that is because I was confused. I feel like it was a combination of, like, I was trying to provide value, but I was also kind of being selfish and talking about myself. I was trying to leave something behind for my son, but I was also kind of pandering to an audience in a certain sort of sense, and I wasn't quite happy with that, because when you're confused about something, I think it obviously comes out unclear. And therefore people can go, well, I'm not sure what the point of this is. And then I myself am saying, I'm not sure what the point of this is. I also found that people would watch the first 10 minutes of the talking section and then they wouldn't really talk about the gaming. So they wouldn't really engage with the gaming section because it wasn't as interesting, which made me go back to the drawing board and think about why it was I was doing it. And I had a difficult time bridging the gap between the two. So initially, when I made this, I had wanted to work through some of my things I was thinking about and leave them for my son so he could have an idea of who I was. He's currently taking a nap for about an hour and a half, so that gives me enough time to film this last episode for you. The wrapping up of this show is going to be left with I think we're going to go with the two things that adults don't tell you when you're young and why failure is so important. Because I think that this is where I've kind of gotten to in my life now, and this is the most important messages that I could deliver to my son. So listen, the two things that adults won't tell you and why it's important. The first thing is that nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. We're all making this up. And that seems like a little bit common sense, but I think sometimes people forget what it's like to be a kid and how vulnerable that is and how little you understand of the world and how little you know of good and how little you know of evil. And none of us know what we're doing. Most of us are dumb about 90% of things. Almost everything. Like, I'm dumb about almost everything. There's like one or two things I'm actually good at. So that means when someone gives you advice, well, you have to take it with a grain of salt because they probably don't know what they're talking about unless it's their expertise. Then you can listen to them. And even then you may want to go out and get advice from 3 or 4 people. You know, we're having this really big problem in society, and I've been thinking about it, and I talk a lot about it with my peers and with my bosses and with different people that I work with. And the problem that we're having in society is I think that when we were young, we were fed this idea that all of these institutions of authority were there to help you. What I mean by that is the police are there, doctors are there for you, teachers are there for you, and they're there and they're in place and they've been put in place because they're designed to help you. And I think, especially with the explosion of the internet, what has happened is the real truth has come forward, which is that people are people. And there are good doctors that actually have your best interest in mind, and there are bad doctors who are lazy. And that doesn't mean that the entire institution is corrupt. It just means that people are being people. And you have to really do your research before you go out and you make a commitment to something, and learn to treat people as individuals. That there are going to be some people that are going to have your best interest in mind, and there are going to be some people that are not, regardless of the industry. You're going to have good bosses, and you're going to have bad bosses. You're going to have bosses that are really there to empower you and teach you some things, and you're going to have bosses who are burnt out and lazy. I try to employ empathy when I meet people, and that's been one of my biggest skills to understanding people, is that I try to remember that they were children once, and that everybody made their way through life, and that they were once at a starting point where they were a child, and not everybody started off in the same place. But I don't think that the solution in the world, Elliot, if you're watching this and where you're going through the same problems in 15, 20 years, the solution to me is not to burn down the entire institution. The solution is that you just have to be aware that people are who they are. They're flawed. And promoting the people that have empathy and kindness and good ethics is the way forward. So that's what I would say about that. I would say that I've learned a lot from bad bosses who put a lot of the work on my shoulders. And I've learned a lot, as I've told you, from my mentors, Rashad and Jesse, who have taught me how to take responsibility and pay attention to details no matter how hard life is. So the moral of that is do your research. Don't give up on it. There are people out there that do believe in good, and you hear about these stories all the time. There's a lot of money to be made to tell you that the world is a bad place. And it is a bad place, but it's also a good place. The second message that I would leave you with is, and this is a little bit harsh, but I would say outside of maybe 4 or 5 people, like, nobody gives a fuck about you. And that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but it's both empowering and it's depressing. It's both. And even the 4 or 5 people, sometimes they're like, I don't know. But what it means is that when you make a mistake, nobody cares. They don't care. And when you do something good, that's also, they don't care for very long. People have a short attention span. And if you do something really dumb, it's really only going to last for a few days or a few minutes or a month. And if you do something really good, if you win a championship or you do something that's really exciting, also it's going to last for a few minutes and then it's on to the next one. So what you should take from that is that you should just do what you think is meaningful to do. When you're only 3.5 now, and one of the things that your mom and I actually agreed upon was that we were going to let you manifest yourself in whatever way you were going to manifest yourself, and we were going to lay the ground rules, but that if you wanted to do whatever you wanted to do, whatever toys you wanted to play with, whatever your natural interests were, we were going to support that with as little, I don't want to say without bias, but with as little bias as possible. And I think so far, up to almost 3.5, I've been true to that, and I think that your mom has been true to that. Whatever you want to play with, because the reality is that you're going to manifest yourself in the world. Your natural genetic interests are going to come, and your natural genetic competencies, the things that you're really good at, are going to rise. And by allowing you to explore those without putting our own personal life on your shoulders is super important. At least it's very important to me, because I think it's the way that you're actually going to be. It's the way that you're actually going to be. I don't want to say happy. Happy is not the right word for it, but it's the way that you're going to find meaning in life. That life is really shitty and hard a lot of times, and most of the things that are happening to you, a lot of them are unfair. But if you have something meaningful that you feel like is making a difference in the world, that is making a difference in yourself and making a difference in this community around you, then the suffering is gonna be justified. The negativity is gonna be justified. And there's a lot of people out there, actually most people, even regardless of how much income they make, that are miserable and that are happy. And a lot of that has to do with, like I said, finding something that's meaningful in your life, because once your bills are paid, you go back down to your normal way of being, like your standard emotional state, and you're really not affected positively or negatively. When you have debt and when you're trying to pay off things and when you're stressed out, when things are bad, your emotions are flexing a lot. But once those things go away, and they always do, and they come back and then they go, when they are gone, you're at your normal state. You're at your stable self. And if you want to keep that there, doing something meaningful is super important. So remembering that we don't know adults know what they're talking about most of the time. 99% of the time when we're talking about issues, we have zero information. We don't know anything about politics. We don't know anything about our health system. People latch on to one or two statements that have been made, and they think that that all of a sudden becomes the talking point of everything, and most of us have zero idea of what we're talking about. So take people's opinions with a grain of salt. And nobody cares. So do what you think is meaningful and work on yourself, and that will expand out to your community, and you'll be able to be more positive and kind around your community and build it up on a small level and impact a small amount of people. It's kind of like people talk about karma or a chain reaction, and this is really what it is. So that would be what my mantra would be, Elliot, to leave behind for you. These episodes are kind of rambling and they go on, and I hope that you can glean little bits and pieces of information from them and take some value in case something ever does happen. You know, it's interesting. There was this weird, I just heard this story 2 days ago about this StarCraft 2 guy that passed away, and I didn't know him very well, so I can't really speak on that, but it did make me reflect on just like the finality of things and needing to get back and produce some sort of work to leave something behind or leave some sort of impact. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with, I know that this has gone on for a while, but the last thing I'm going to leave you with is failure is the single most important thing that you can do in your life. As we're playing, we're going to play Hearthstone today, which is another card game, and this is what we're going to end this little mini series with. We're going to talk about some stories that impacted me in my life, and all of them have to do with the fact that it was really difficult and that I failed. When you do something right, you don't learn anything from it. And remembering what I just said earlier about nobody caring and nobody knowing what they're doing, you have to have the right mindset about failure, which is that it's just learning. It's not losing. It's not that you're terrible, although you may be terrible, but it doesn't mean that's who you are. It's a learning experience. What are you interested in? If you try a bunch of things and you're not good at them, that's okay. Just keep trying different things until you find something that actually naturally interests you. You know, all of the things that I did in my life were where I pushed myself to where I was actually uncomfortable. Now, when we think of pushing ourselves, some people think of physically, and that is, I do push myself physically. You know, one of the stories is that I did Tough Mudder twice. And even though it's kind of meaningless for me, I was really terrified. I was terrified I was going to die. I was terrified I was going to look like a fool because I had never ran more than 1.5 miles. Tough Mudder was a 12.5-mile run with 25 obstacles, and it was before it became really mainstream. And so there was very low regulation. And I did it back then. And it wasn't the physical aspect that I enjoyed. It was the fact that I trained, I practiced, I got ready for it, I executed it, and I showed up even though I was terrified with some friends, and we did it, and it was wonderful. So failure is essential. You should try to fail every single day and do everything that you can. And I know that the speech is coming off a little bit aggressive and a little bit lectury, and I realize that as I'm saying it, because I think I'm mostly kind of unhappy with the project as a whole. Like, I feel like I wasn't clear, and I was going in and out of giving value and taking and being selfish and putting my personality on camera and like it was kind of cloudy and confused. And so I'm kind of, I think, a little bit grumpy about that in a way, but I am going to move on to different projects. I have another idea in my head that I'm going to roll out and see where it goes. So this was essential to opening the door to these projects. But fail every day and just go forward and just know that your parents love you a lot. So I hope that this has been worthwhile. I hope that this has been worth your time. I can't thank everybody enough for actually being kind and being supportive. And I know it motivated a bunch of other people in my life that I know to try to do things on their own. And so if you watch the talking section, this is the end of the talking section, although we will tell stories throughout some of my biggest moments, and I will try to switch back to camera mode. And we're going to play some Hearthstone. So thank you so much for helping make these 10 episodes possible, everyone. And Elliot, I hope that this is meaningful to you. And hopefully we just get to laugh about it later in about 10, 15 years or so when you are doing your own thing. So I'm going to leave the camera here. We're going to set this game up and make sure that the game is all loaded. Hearthstone, I played Hearthstone when the beta came out, and it's kind of like the game that we played. For those of you that don't play games very often, it's kind of like Magic the Gathering. It's a simplified version of Magic the Gathering, but it's complex in its own route. I haven't played this game in I don't know, 3-4 years. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to spend money on things, so I play a lot of free games. You know, League of Legends was free. Dota is free, even though we never played Dota. All right, hold on. Let's jump into game here and see what we're gonna do here. I actually want to make sure that this is good. Okay, so this looks good. So it's a new season. Alright, season of what? Year of the Dragon. Cool. That means certain cards, I'm just gonna do this. Only basic, classic, and the last 2 years of cards are in standard, okay? The following series are now wild. These are all some of the first expansions of cards that came out. Okay, so what you gotta do, bunch of neutral cards have been moved to wild. They give you a gift. You gotta convert all these over. It basically removes all the cards that you can't use. And then, you know, I like to do Mage and Hunter. So let's get into the game. It's the same idea as mostly any card game for those people that end up watching this that haven't played. By the way, the drink of the day is Pyramid Apricot Ale. It's kind of fruity. I know IPAs are all the rage right now, but I get too full, man. It's too full. It's like I want to eat my beer. So I'll have a beer and I'll have lunch later on. But like every single card game that works out, you have a certain amount of life, and you fight your opponent with cards to see who can basically kill each other first. Wait time is 11 to 55 seconds. All right. So I'm the hunter down here. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure, because I've had this problem in the past where I'm just moving my camera down this time. So this is how much energy you have to use down here in the bottom right. This is how much a card costs in the upper left. So I only have one. So I can do this one.
What you did.
Job's done.
I thoroughly enjoy playing card games that allows me to talk.
Injured?
So every card takes a turn to rest before you can use it. Well, at least creature cards do. So some of my top moments as we're thinking we're playing, sorry, I have to oftentimes move my headphones to the side. I think eventually I'll want to move to a microphone. But here are some interesting things about your dad that are my favorite stories to tell. You know, it's interesting when I talk to people. Oh, this is kind of cool. This guy's doing all kinds of things here.
To my side. Job's done.
Some of my favorite stories to tell are, number one, when I was 13, I was a recommended black belt in Taekwondo. I just never took my test. Martial arts was super important in my life. This is having a tough time. Oh, that automatically does.
Job's
Should have
done.
eliminated that guy. That was a bad move. We moved away before I could take my black belt test, but martial arts was super essential. You know, my childhood wasn't great, and martial arts just allowed me the ability to really focus on something and develop some self-discipline and some self-esteem. So that's definitely one of my favorite stories. Is this a beast? No. This is a beast, however, though. Alright. Another one of my favorite stories was I was an extra in a movie. In an actual Hollywood movie. I was an extra in the movie Practical Magic. With Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. I auditioned. My stepmom, told me that I should try out for it, and she signed me up, and I did the audition, and they liked me, and it was a really cool experience. So we're gonna do this. Okay, we're gonna change yourself to 1. Attack. 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 Really? That worked out well. We're doing good so far. So yeah, you'll notice that one of the things about me is that I have a really difficult time doing 2 things at once. I have a difficult time talking and playing. It's just the way my mind works. So I have to process, and then I can tell stories as we're going along. Cool. You know, I spent a lot of my life afraid. One of my bigger regrets was not doing sports in high school. Because the reason I didn't do it was mostly because of the reasoning. The reason I didn't do sports in high school was because I was super insecure about myself. So that would definitely be one of my biggest regrets. Alright, so things are going really well. You can see here underneath this character he has 6 health left, so there's a chance, unless something amazing happens, that I could win. As long as he doesn't get rid of all of these guys or heal himself up.
My shield for Argus.
That isn't great. I feel like that's the right move.
My eyes are open.
I mean, I just don't see what he could do. See, this is up here above, right next to his cards, is how much like juice he has left, like mana. How much he has to spend. 5 out of 9. I just don't see how he could win.
You have been.
Yeah, good. We got the W. Cool. And I got a treasure chest. Oh no, 4 more games. Cool. Man. You know, there's a lot of points in my life where I think that people underestimated me. When I was a Sue, people underestimated me. When I was an exec Sue, people underestimated me. And I think that, I don't know, maybe it was like my naivety, or I'm not sure, the fact that I messed around a lot, or I'm not sure. But people always saw me as like not a threat, and I always proved that I was capable of more than what people thought I was capable of, which is another reason why you really shouldn't... What's this guy? See, I haven't seen a lot of these cards, so I don't know the situation here. Death Rattle, summon another 1/1 character. Okay, so we're gonna go like this. We're gonna use our special bonus. 2, 1.
Job's done.
Cool.
Job's done.
So I think...
I hunt alone. Job's done.
Cool. This is exciting. I like the colors. So one of the great things about Hearthstone is that you can, if you've never played this, you can like, if you got OCD, you can just like touch stuff, and everything does things. Ah, that's annoying.
To my side. Job's done. mana.
That's okay.
Somebody order a bomb.
This is not looking good for me. I'm definitely... It's definitely not looking good for me. This match. It's not a good look right now.
Let the pain speak to me.
Okay, so let's, like, maybe I can just do what needs to be done here. It's annoying. I mean, it's a total waste, but...
Job done.
Okay, I don't have any cards in my hand. I like this cool bomb thing, because clearly a bunch of bombs are going to go off. I have 19 cards left.
To my side. Thanks.
You can, like, communicate. This is the only way. I do wish that you could... I do wish that you could communicate, like, text to people and talk to them.
Astounding.
What is going on here? I haven't seen a lot of these.
I can't do that.
I mean, this match is basically over. I mean, at this point, I'm 100% delaying the inevitable. He only has 13 cards left, but he has all these cards.
An error.
Save the best for last.
This is a cool deck.
Who wants a hug?
Oh, man. It's like basically when I... I actually just attacked the wrong one.
That didn't quite hit the mark.
Well, this was an exciting, boring match.
Save the best for last.
Alright. Thankfully... Let's do our third game. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to share with you today as far as like insights or, I mean, I would just say, like I already said in my kind of harsh intro, of like all of the things that were worthwhile in my life were the things that were the most difficult. It's really difficult to snap yourself out of bad behavior patterns. You know, it's really hard to stop eating sugar. It's really hard to drink water and to meditate and to fundamentally change things that are bad for you. So it's better just try to get those things started in the beginning than to go back afterwards and try to change them. You know, I don't read all the time, but reading has been super enjoyable for me lately.
Begin. Bring it on.
You know, hung out with friends the other day, and they asked me, "Oh, how do you know, you have a really nice place, and how did you get it?" And I said, "Well, some of it was luck, you know, but like also some of it was like not doing really dumb shit, like not blowing my money on stupid things, which is almost everything. There's a lot of money out there that will tell you to buy all this stuff and that will make you happy. It's just not true. Most of the games that I have played that were the most fun were free."
Quickly.
This is why it feels really good when you purge a bunch of stuff, because it feels like kind of cumbersome on your mind. It feels heavy on your mind, you know? Just having a really mellow time here. There are 9 characters to choose from, and this guy's the same character as me. You know, it's interesting, I've debated back and forth, and I think that this is true of life. It's one of the reasons why I like playing games. Of what character would be the most beneficial for me to play in a game. And so here's what I mean by that. And I think that is true of life. If you end up enjoying video games, there are certain styles of characters which are just... He got me. Shit, good job.
Well played.
So there's healers, there's support characters, there's characters that are normally very aggressive, there's tanky characters which have a lot of life, and they all have different roles. And so figuring out which character would actually be best for you to play in a game is super important to figuring out which character you're going to be in life and helping you to develop self-awareness. So for a long time, what's this? What's Echo? Oh, this guy's already beating me. So I thought for a long time that I wanted to play really aggressive characters that were like, you know, running the show, that were the center of attention, and League of Legends would be like an ADC, or like someone that does just like getting all of the amazing kills. And then what I realized is, as I went on, was I just did I don't have the skill for that. And I'm better off playing a support character. And in this game, I'm better off playing simpler characters if I want to have some wins. You know, the hunter and the mage are really simpler characters. A lot of times they're really straightforward. And if I want to get any wins, this is the most enjoyable thing for me to do. So right now he's up 26 to 22, but I don't feel like I'm doing that badly. Just look, it's turns on the dime. Over here on the left side is where you can see the kind of the play-by-play of what happened. I think I just always felt like I was meant for something bigger, you know? I know, that could just maybe being arrogant, but this creative process is going to be interesting. The next show I think I'm going to do, I think the piece that I've decided was missing was that I need to interview people, so that's what I'm going to do in my next show, is actually interview people. I'll do it through Skype or through Messenger. Just try it out, and we'll see how that goes, because I've had that idea forming in my head for a while. What? Well, that's frustrating. This is going to be close, but right now he definitely has the edge. How many cards? 10 cards left, 17 cards left.
Oh, the might of Stormwind!
Ooh, this is getting interesting, huh? Because now it's time. I basically have whatever I'm going to do this turn, and it doesn't look like I can win. Nope. Sure doesn't. He won.
Job's done. Give that minion a turn to get ready. Well played.
He's gonna win. But the beast is the dinosaur. Cool. Well, let's do one or two more games, and then we'll call it good. I think that this is pretty cool. Welcome to the Fire Festival. I'll play 3 games. I got 200. So that's the one cool thing about this is... Oh, I got a pack. Because I had a pack. This is quite satisfying. This is for the addictiveness. See, the purple is epic, rare, normal, normal. So. Okay.
Rare.
Druid.
Epic.
Legendary card. Priest. That's kind of cool. So then you can come over here and you can shop. See, this is all different now. I don't know what's the most, like, I don't know what's the most
for the greatest criminal undertaking in the history of villainy.
I haven't bought any of these. These are all the different little solo adventures that can be done. Oh, I guess they're letting you do it.
Come, gather the tribes, sound the drums. It is time to rumble!
Wanted. Highly energetic, morally flexible researchers to engage in air quote science.
This is cool. There's like actually a lot of different things that you can do here.
Heroes, who among you is brave enough to venture into the Witchwood?
Like, let's see what Witchwood is here. Got it. So you can buy it with gold, you don't have to buy it with money. This is what I actually enjoy about it. So I use my 275 here. Let's open these packs of cards, huh? It's the rare. All classes. Here's your rare. Hunter. Twin spells. Summon a 5/5 hyena with rush. One thing I've... Oh, there's a legendary card. Cool.
Oh, legendary.
Weird. Yeah, one of the more enjoyable things that you can do here. Let's see if we can do this. Let's try a solo adventure for something a little bit more interesting.
Dalaran, a splendid floating city of magic. I think we will take it. Everyone split up. For this plan to work, we must each do our part.
So they clearly give you the first chapter and then you gotta pay for the rest of them.
The Bank of Dalaran.
We have recruited an elite band of disenfranchised miscreants. Each have their own strength. As we plunder the riches of Dalaran, we will gain ever greater kleptomaniacal.
It's actually one of
skills.
this is actually one of Hearthstone's biggest advantages.
We will begin with a modest deck. The rest of our cards, we will take. The guards and citizens of Dalaran will rise against us. Play dirty. Defeat them.
One of the greatest advantages is that they have all of these stories and chapters, which it actually makes you better at the game, because it forces you to play with different combinations of cards, and it's all free. And they've done a really good job. If I wasn't so conservative with my money, I would be buying this all the time.
Another busy day. Next in line.
Big gods, adventurers. Bah! Nobody is wanting us to be stealing loot for some reason.
Okay. Oh, so then you gotta like, I see.
Chaos. You'll have to get back in line for this. Sorry.
Glad I did that.
Not an issue. Be stepping from my lamp for the skulking about and burning.
So...
Someday I'll be just like you.
Job's done.
Sorry, this is the wrong line. Next. Waiting can be so tiring, huh? Have you filled out Form 489C?
What do I want to do here? Okay, so then we do this.
No cutting.
Cool.
Can't do it.
Let's see here.
You require my assistance?
Cool.
Next.
Feel like we're gonna win this one.
Low on fuel.
To battle!
Oh no.
Cool.
Have what you can. Dararan is littered with powerful artifacts, soon to be ours.
And then they add
With
card.
each victory, our evil organization grows in power. Choose wisely to enhance your deck. city's defenders grow more difficult as we progress.
Cool, we'll do this as the last one. I'm starting to get a little bit tired. I'm gonna have lunch. But thank you, everyone. This project has been super fun. I'm still gonna upload videos, but I don't know that they're gonna be in the Talk Therapy Through Gaming. There might be some gaming videos, there might be, like I said, there's other projects that I want to work on.
What are you doing in my shop?
Best seats ever!
Someday I'll be just like you!
Oh, I couldn't eat another bite. Well...
Job's done. Don't forget to tip your Torin. Get in there and fight, maggot!
Well, we can do this.
Popcorn. Job's done.
Do that. Okay, it's better.
It's time for a little blood.
There's plenty to go around.
I don't know what to do here.
Maximum chaos!
Job's done.
These are kind of, I always like these, they're very exciting.
Delicious.
Job's done.
Okay.
Funnel cakes! Get your funnel cakes here!
The dangers of being a good cook. I can't help myself.
So I need to do I have a spell? I do, so I can do this guy.
Serve the Fire Lord. And I have more cakes. Job's done.
I feel like I'm gonna win. Hold on.
My stomach's starting to rumble. Need another taste test.
It's okay, bud.
Maximum chaos.
You're right there. Sorry about that. So it looks like we might need to hurry this up because somebody just rang the doorbell.
Flame on!
It's time
very
for a
fitting.
little blood.
Low on fuel.
And that's how we end it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back right now. And I'm gonna switch it over to my face. I believe. No, I didn't switch it over to my face. That's it. Thank you so much for being part of this 10-part series. Sorry about that little distraction at the end, but it's been really fun. I hope that you found it valuable, and stay tuned for other things I may be working on. Take care.